Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. So really excited to have you joining us this morning. Thank you for joining the Demandbase session. I'm really excited to be joined by one of our customers. They're a long-time Demandbase and HubSpot customer, Broadcom. And we're going to have Kerri Vardon, their head of marketing operations, talking about their ABM strategy, how they're using both Demandbase and HubSpot together, and how they've really shifted from a MQL-based model into an account-based model, how they brought their sales team on board, and how they're using both technologies together. We will have about 5 minutes at the end of the session for questions, so think of some good questions for Kerri. Please welcome Kerri Vardon to the stage.
Everybody hear me? Cool. Hi, folks. My name is Kerri Vardon. We are going to talk about Broadcom's path to ABM and then also how we did it in partnership with sales. So first off, as Leanne was saying, I oversee marketing operations for the Agile Operations division of Broadcom. For those that haven't heard of Broadcom before, we're one of the largest enterprise customers of HubSpot. I've also had the pleasure of serving on HubSpot's customer advisory board this past year. I see some other CAB members in the audience, so thanks for joining me. And then I also serve on Demandbase's inaugural customer advisory board as well. Okay, so before we get into it, I wanted to show you all how Broadcom uses the HubSpot tool, okay? The cool thing about Broadcom is we actually have our marketing team and our sales team both in HubSpot. So we've got about 300 sales folks that use Sales Hub daily, okay? We also have about 30 marketers that use Marketing Hub and Content Hub, and we host all 4 of our microsites on Content Hub. And then the operations team also uses Ops Hub, which is now apparently called Data Hub. I can't keep track of all the rebranding. So quick show of hands. I know that we had a lot of marketers in the audience from the keynote with the whoops that I heard. But quick show of hands for those that use Marketing Hub. Okay, a lot of people. Keep your hands up if your sales team also uses Sales Hub. Awesome. Anybody just use Sales Hub? Okay, all right. Now I know what I'm dealing with. All right, so we're going to go over Broadcom's go-to-market evolution. I've broken it out into 3 different phases, so that way you all can self-identify where you are on that evolution. We'll talk about why Broadcom specifically needed to change, and then we'll break it out into 3 different steps on how we got alignment from the sales team, how we mapped out the plan using HubSpot and Demandbase, and then how we kept that alignment as well. Keeping that alignment is key. Finally, we'll wrap up with some results and some lessons learned, okay? All right, so let's start off with Broadcom's evolution. So I wanted to explain Broadcom's go-to-market evolution in the 3 different phases at a high level. So we've got demand gen only, that's where we started. Then we moved to a lead generation heavy and a lead scoring model where we moved over to routing MQLs, which is of course on the contact level. And where we're at now is this ABMs and buying group mentality. So quick show of hands here, is anybody still, and this is a judgment-free zone, by the way. So is anybody in the demand gen phase? No, not very many, okay. Anybody in the lead gen, lead scoring MQLs phase? Good. And then anybody already doing ABM and buying groups? Okay, cool. Well, I guess that's why you're here. That's what, right? So, so when I talk about how we started with the demand gen phase, we were very heavy on content marketing. We were doing webinars and events, email marketing and paid ads, right? So we're still doing that today as a part of ABM, but the issue with that for our particular organization is we were over-communicating those signals, or we were under-communicating those signals, right? Maybe we would attend an event and we would tell the sales team every single person that we talked to at that event. Or maybe someone downloaded a piece of content and we were tying the sales team to those form submissions. We were over-communicating and the signals just got way, way too messy for the sales team. So fast forward, that's when we moved to lead scoring. That's when we started taking the content that we were building and we started segmenting it into that top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel content strategy, right? We started to do those aggregate scores, and I saw a lot of hands up when I said MQL and lead scoring, right? But we kind of know that those scores are a little bit arbitrary, right? They're a good best guess, but they're a little bit arbitrary. So we were routing those contacts in that way once a contact hit a score of 50. And where we're at now is in this buying group and ABM mentality. So we've started to tier our accounts based on value and potential, okay? We are also identifying buying group titles and personas within those accounts with special interest on some of our higher level tiers. And then we're using journey stages at the account level, not the contact level. So not a contact's lifecycle stage, but at the account level with the help of Demandbase, okay? Just if you're looking at this slide and it's a little intimidating where you're at, right? I joined Broadcom in late 2021. They actually brought me on to stand up lead scoring and MQL for our marketing organization. And we just over the last year pivoted to this ABM and buying group mentality. So we're playing a long game here, right? It's not going to happen overnight. Okay, so why did we change? First off, there were thought leaders like Forrester that were telling us that there was a methodology shift. I'm sure that you guys have seen all the papers from the Forrester experts saying death of the MQL, right? So we were reading those papers too, and we were definitely soaking all of that in. But we also were listening to our sales team. So our experience and feedback from our sales team was telling us what we were doing with MQLs and our contact-based mentality was not working as well as it should. So that's why it was time to change. So, what did we find out? We know that a single MQL is not the buyer. And then what you see up there on the screen, those are my actual lead scoring thresholds, right? Again, best guess, but they're kind of arbitrary, right? I was doing the best that I could when I stood that up. So we decided to pivot off of that. We also know, and we heard from Kip's keynote today, that contacts no longer progress in that linear fashion, right? They're not starting at the top of the funnel and then downloading my top of funnel and then my middle of funnel and then my bottom of funnel content concurrently. That's just not how it works anymore. Forrester's actually said that 80% of buying decisions have 3 or more buying group members. So I was like, man, I can fact check that with my HubSpot data. Let's see, right? So I took a look at some of my HubSpot deals and the amount of associated contacts that my sales team was associating to those deals, and Broadcom actually averages 3.5 contacts that are a part of those deals, which pretty much fact checks Forrester, right? We previously had this customer where four really juicy personas for us were downloading relevant pieces of content in that top of funnel, middle of funnel range. And unfortunately, none of those contacts graduated my arbitrary threshold, and they didn't route to sales. So luckily, because we've got our marketing and sales team and HubSpot together, they're actually all over their accounts in HubSpot, and they were able to see that on the company record. Thank you, sales team, right? But we would have missed that signal because we weren't looking at it at a holistic level, and we were looking at it at a contact-based level. Okay, so MQLs are too small. But then what we also need to realize is that MQAs, marketing qualified accounts, are also not the answer, right? Broadcom actually targets some of the largest enterprise customers out there. If I told the sales team, hey, go follow up with Wells Fargo, they would say, okay, but who, how, why, what did they do? Give me a tangible contact, right? So this concept of MQAs is almost too big. And then so we get into this Goldilocks zone. So MQLs are too small. We know MQAs are too big. But guess what? Buying groups are just right. So buying groups consist of individuals who play a role in the buying group process. So when we talk about propensity to buy, the strongest indicator of propensity is engagement across multiple buying groups. Okay, so we've self-identified where we are on the journey, given your show of hands, right? And now we know where we want to get to. So how do we start doing that? Step 1, we have to get alignment between marketing and sales. Okay, so I'm in marketing operations, as I mentioned before. Operations, toxic trait, if we have any other marketing ops or sales folks in the audiences, we jump right into planning and execution. And a lot of the times, that's challenging, right? What we actually ended up doing here was taking the time up front and making the business case to the sales team. We are doing it for sales, right? We want to make sure that they understand what the gap is today and why we want to change, why will moving from MQLs to buying groups make it easier for them, make their focus more prioritized. So we detailed out a solution. We brought sales in to let them know so they really understood the mindset that I just walked you all through, okay? We also, one of the first ways that you can get alignment with sales is asking their opinion and not doing it in our fun little marketing bubble, right? The first thing that we did was we asked them for help with defining the buying group. So number one, sales, how many folks are you talking to with respect to a deal? And if they don't know the answer to that, you can also use your HubSpot data for that. So up there on the bottom of the screen is actually an associated contacts deal report on here. My x-axis is all of the different titles. Now, that's small. I get it. You guys aren't necessarily supposed to see all the titles up there. But your y-axis will show you the quantity of those titles that are associated to the deal. Okay? So this helps me have an informed conversation with sales. I'm making it easy for them. I'm bringing this information to the table for them to try to give them a voice in helping define the buying group. Okay? Now, if your sales organization struggles with actually associating contacts to deals, or if your sales organization is not in Sales Hub, they've got to be logging and tracking their sales activities somewhere. So you can still do this exercise with sales activities. In HubSpot speak, that would be their logged calls, their logged emails, their meetings, etc. You can still do it in that way. Just make sure that if you're looking at all of their sales activities, you're parsing out some of that back and forth that they may have with the day-to-day practitioners. Okay. Next step, you can also align marketing and sales by collaborating on the target account list, okay? Ideally, marketing comes to the table with a proposed list, and maybe that marketing list is pre-filtered for a specific industry that you and your team are interested in. Maybe it contains certain technographics that you all have in mind for a competitive takeout campaign, okay? We personally append a column to our proposed target account list that shows the previous marketing engagement with those accounts. So that way we've got a good feel for which accounts are warmer, which accounts may have a better propensity to buy, okay? Regardless, you need to let sales weigh in on this tiering and target account exercise because they may have no information that the marketing team doesn't. We call it scorched earth here at Broadcom, where they know that company is never going to do business with us, no matter what they say, right? They may also have a whale that they're chasing that marketing doesn't know about that they want to add to the list. So this is a great opportunity where, from a marketing standpoint, you can give sales a voice for this tiering exercise. Agnostic of the tiering exercise, you need to make sure that you're tiering these accounts in Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. You can't be all of the things to all of the people. So the exercise of tiering actually helps you provide both focus and priority from a marketing and sales standpoint. All right. So we've got alignment. We're killing it, right? Now we've got to figure out how we're going to do it. Broadcom specifically did it with HubSpot and Demandbase. Okay, so we've got sales aligned to what we want to do. I actually got a couple frantic G-chats, we're a Google company, a couple frantic G-chats from our sales team saying, no, but Kerri, you cannot take away my hot leads. I want my hot leads. I get it, man. We're not taking away the hot leads, right? We like them too because for us in marketing, they're our highest yield and most likely to drive marketing influence on a deal. So marketing doesn't want those to go away either, right? So hot leads are defined as, what we define them as, is really just your bottom of funnel hand raisers, right? You all have your contact us forms, your demos, maybe your free trials or things like that. We assured the team that those were not going anywhere, so we still have forms on our HubSpot landing pages, and then an automatic lead routing notification that we do via HubSpot workflow. Agnostic of any signals that the account that bottom of funnel hand raisers with, if that account is or is not showing signals, we route it anyway, right? Those are not going anywhere. Otherwise, we've got to figure out how to put our MarTech stack to work for us or to work for you. So what features and functionality do you have? And if you don't have those capabilities in your existing stack, what do you need? So we have been HubSpot customers since 2019. We're a pretty sophisticated customer in HubSpot since we use all the hubs, right? HubSpot for us was really, really good at demand generation and really good for helping me set up the complex lead scoring system and routing system that I set up. But for Broadcom, we needed more support for our ABM journey, and to help us elevate our go-to-market strategy, that's when we onboarded Demandbase about 2 years ago, okay? So what can we start to do in Demandbase? Number one, we can set up account-based journey stages. We can also set up buying groups. So I'll give you some screen grabs in a little bit, but Demandbase is great at having this buying group interface, and you can use that for things like ads and buying group insights within the Demandbase platform. For HubSpot, Demandbase and HubSpot has a native two-way integration, which is really, really powerful that it's already native. So I can actually surface key insights that I get from the Demandbase platform and put those in HubSpot. That's an especially attractive option for a big customer like Broadcom, because we actually have more users using HubSpot than we do that have Demandbase seats. So I can actually take some of my Demandbase intent data, my technographics, all the juicy tidbits that the Demandbase platform offers me, most of the juicy tidbits that the Demandbase platform offers me, and I can put them in HubSpot, so my single source of truth remains HubSpot, with Demandbase helping me supplement that with additional data. Okay, and then last but not least, you can do cool automations with some of the Demandbase data that's in there, such as triggering sequences and email mergers. And I will give some examples of these in the next coming slides. Okay, so one of the reasons we chose Demandbase is for account-based journey stages. We needed to be able to show an account's progression on their ABM journey with us. And so we're using these account-based journey stages as our diagnostic tool for determining how different tactics influence results. So for us, progression of the journey stages from left to right shows strengthening of a propensity to buy. We're seeing higher marketing engagement and therefore a significantly warmer account. Now, it's important to note for these journey stages that we made the decision, but I do recommend it, not to add sales engagements in these journey stages as criteria, because there's nothing more frustrating than marketing flagging an account that sales is already working and you scoring that information, right? So we specifically have our account-based journey stages on marketing engagement data. When marketing works these journey stages and we're focused on targeting someone who literally does not know we exist and they're unengaged with us, through this journey stage, that allows us to better prioritize those accounts for sales, so sales can focus on the accounts that we truly want them to, the engaged and hot ones. Okay, so there may be some Demandbase customers in the audience, there may not be, but here's an actual screen grab of the setup of UI in Demandbase for journey stages. So how you read this is as follows. Broadcom has 3 distinct account journeys. Those are for our 3 product lines. You guys may have more, you may have less product lines. Then we've got 7 different journey stages within each of those journeys. I'm not counting that 8th one, because the 8th is just like excluded accounts, right? Now, you can tailor these journeys for you and your business needs. You'll notice that our journeys stop after customer, and we all know that there is significant customer motions after that. Maybe you and your business are interested in cross-sell, upsell, adoption, right? All of these journey stages are highly customizable in Demandbase. You just need to put them to work for you and set it up for how you want to. Regardless, you do need sales' feedback on accounts in order to make critical adjustments for these stages. We evaluate our journey stage criteria quarterly, okay? Because things change. And then we also want to iterate according to if we're flagging too many hot accounts and creating too much noise in the system. Okay, so we've defined and built out the journey stages. And now we need to keep that alignment that we started with in step 1 and set clear expectations for what marketing is doing and what sales is doing for each one of these journey stages, okay? You'll notice, first off, there's a lot in the marketing column. A marketer's work is never done, right? No rest for the wicked. But marketing's action here is to take these unengaged accounts and pull them through to our researching and aware phase, right? And then as soon as they're significantly warm for the sales team, that's when sales's actions start, and they can begin prospecting. Ideally with the information for what the marketing team has engaged with them, and then also reaching out specifically to those buying group members that are within an engaged and a hot account. Regardless, we need to be setting clear expectations of what marketing is doing for each of these stages, and then what sales is doing for each of these stages, and really driving that commitment for this entire process. Okay, so I haven't talked about ABM a lot yet, technically the tiering portion. So here's where ABM comes in. I then take the journey stages that I just set up in Demandbase, and I can layer on my tiering account lists for them. Now, in a perfect world, right, if my tier 1 account list is getting more prioritization, more money, more time, I would like to see better results in my higher stages, right, because of the amount of focus that we're putting in there. Am I seeing it here? I think I am, right? Later stages do have a little bit of an elevated yield if you're looking at the engaged percentage compared to tier 1 and tier 2 and hot. Is it statistically significant? I'm not sure, right? But it's good to have this information relative to how long this has been in market, so you can see how your specific ABM campaigns and your tiering list are performing. I also mentioned cool functionality in Demandbase called buying groups that you can set up. So before I do that, we need to set up personas and then buying groups in order to do so. So quick definitions on the terms, because they're related, but they're not completely synonymous, right? Personas are profiles for individual roles in the buying process, but then buying groups are a collection of those personas. And those folks work together to make a purchasing decision, okay? So Broadcom has 3 different buying groups specific to our 3 product lines. And then we've set up our personas in such a way where we have 6 personas, 1 group for decision makers and 1 group for influencers. It's not necessarily a complex process, but you need to know about the personas that you're going after, that you're targeting, right? So if you don't know that information right off the bat, Demandbase does have an AI agent that can help you build your buying groups automatically. It'll take a look at what you're trying to do. It helps you identify the right personas, and then it actually assigns those personas to contacts that you have in your CRM. And then if you don't have those contacts in your CRM, Demandbase has a database that will help put those contacts in there for you. So if you choose to use the AI agent in Demandbase and you don't do it on your own, that's a really attractive option. Okay, so we've got our buying group set up in Demandbase. Why are we going through all this trouble, right? Well, first we can use these buying groups in ads. I can bid more for my right fit titles in the Demandbase ads platform, and I can also layer on my tiering list. This helps me utilize my ad dollars and my digital spend a lot easier. And then once I set up those buying groups and use them in conjunction with ads in Demandbase, I want to check out my results, right? How do I know if it's working? In the campaigns dashboard in Demandbase, they have a buying groups tab. That will actually show you the performance of ad campaigns with your particular buying group. So you can see things like impressions, you can see things like clicks, you can see things like click-through rate. So the elephant in the room here is these click-through rates are horrible, right? These are actual results of Broadcom, but that's okay, and it's totally fine to have not great results, because what I'm going to do after I look at this analysis of the buying groups is I'm going to take a look at that ads campaign that's not targeting buying groups and see if it performs better. If it's performing better not in my buying groups, I'm probably using ad language and maybe a CTA that is not attractive to the people that I am trying to resonate with, right? So the bottom line is data's power here, so that way you can make an informed decision and pivot if you need to from a marketing standpoint. Okay, Demandbase also gives you the ability to glean some buying group insights that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So here's a good screen grab of, it's almost like a heat map, okay? Where on the left-hand side, you've got total engagement of some of the contacts that are in your specific buying group. I was able to pick number 1, the list of accounts that I wanted to see, so I picked my tier 1 account list. And then number 2, the buying group, because remember, I've got 3 of them, so I want to see my tier 1 account list and my automation buying group, okay? So I see the total engagement on the left-hand side, and then on the bottom shows me persona complete lists completeness using the personas that I use to model my buying group. Okay? So the bottom will show me butts in the seats, right? Do I actually have the people in the database that I am interested in order to even begin targeting them in the first place? And then once you've got those butts in the seats and those people actually in your CRM that you're targeting from a marketing standpoint, are those people engaging with me, right? That's what's really cool about this, this buying group insights dashboard. Okay. And then we bring it back to HubSpot, right? So we connect the dots with HubSpot using that two-way native integration. First off, the data consistency when you use that native integration is a really attractive offer, folks. So I can create a tiering property, to tier my tier 1, tier 2 account list in HubSpot, and then I have the ability to segment and filter on that property in Demandbase. I don't have data issues because everything is consistent there. I can use my entire wealth of HubSpot CRM data for segmentation and reporting in Demandbase. We can also see demand-based data within HubSpot, so I will show some examples in just a little bit about how I am pushing intent topics and technographics in Demandbase, which again, attractive option if you've got more contacts and more users in HubSpot than in Demandbase. It also gives me the ability to see not only my accounts, but the associated contacts and what they're doing from a marketing activity standpoint. So you may be thinking, okay, well, we can kind of see what the contacts are doing in HubSpot if we look at the company record, right? And you can, you're not wrong. Also, there's a lot of noise on that company record depending on what your activity filters are that your team has pre-chosen, right? But the cool thing about Demandbase is I can also see some additional detail using Demandbase data, such as intent and such as anonymous page visits. So if I take all of the HubSpot data that I care about and I start looking at that in Demandbase, it starts to paint a deal story for me within there, complete with dates and everything. Okay. I can also automate ABM, so I can help scale some of my programs, and then depending on the journey stages that I've set up, I can start to automate sequences for sales or marketing automation for them. And then last but not least, I can connect the dots from a performance standpoint. So I can see what effect my ABM programs are having, and then also tie that back to deal revenue because all of my data is now connected in Demandbase and HubSpot. Okay, so I promised some examples of how you can start pushing some data from Demandbase to HubSpot. Here's the first example. So Broadcom uses technographics. We use them a lot. Here's an example of how you can render some of the technographics that are chosen in a report for HubSpot. Two different use cases for technographics. So number one, we use them a lot for a competitive takeout campaign. If you look at, I know it's probably a little bit small, but we've got Apache Airflow that's chosen in here. It's one of our competitive technographics. I may want to target all those companies that say true and put them in one of my competitive takeout campaigns. We also take this technographics data and give them to our customer success team, right? The folks that are talking to our customers for churn prevention too. So maybe they're using our product, but they're also using Apache Airflow. I want our customer success team to know that, right? So number one, they don't churn us, and we can possibly even replace them. The HubSpot option seen here allows you to see which companies have that specific technographic in bulk. So pros of this would be to use it for list segmentation and then also targeting and prioritization, right? However, I also actually have this data that lives on the middle pane. I don't know if you guys have started to customize your middle pane of your company records, but I also have this living on the middle pane of the company record. So if I want to look at a company like Wells Fargo and see what are all their technographics that way on a per account basis, you can do that as well in HubSpot. Okay, another example would be showing account level intent in HubSpot as well. So Demandbase has two concepts of intent. One would be high intent, right? It helps with positioning. And then one would be competitive intent. So if I give you a real life example, maybe some of our products, well, not maybe, in actuality, some of our products actually help with workflow orchestration and workflow automation, right? If I see one of my tier 1 accounts or tier 2 accounts surging for that particular intent topic, I not only want the sales team to know about that, but I may use that as a trigger for some of my marketing automations for email nurtures, et cetera, okay? From a competitive intent standpoint, maybe I also know that that same company that's searching for workflow orchestration is also searching for one of my competitive terms, Apache Airflow. So arming my sales team with that, them knowing what the competition is from a landscape standpoint, they'd be able to figure out why, they'd be able to position to that particular account why maybe our product does it better, faster, stronger, okay? What you're seeing here is this information, I have it living on the company left sidebar of a company record, but just like the inverse from the last slide I showed, you can easily report out on this and just put it in a dashboard in HubSpot. It just depends on how you and your team want to see the data. Now, reminder for any intent, agnostic of what the source is, right? We know that intent is probabilistic, but at the same time, it gives us a good litmus test on which accounts are most interested in products and services. Okay, and then we've got ways to automate ABM in HubSpot. So here is a screen grab of a workflow enrollment criteria where I'm taking a look at my tier 1 account list. I'm saying, but I only want to see the buying group contacts within that tier 1 account list. And I only want to see them in the accounts that are in those initial stages, right? That awareness stage and that researching stage of my journey stages. And so from there, I can execute an email nurture campaign of those top of funnel kind of thought leadership type of content. You can do the same thing for farther down the funnel stages, for journey stages, but here's a good example of how you would use those data points from a workflow standpoint in order to execute an email nurture. Okay, and then last but not least, we can also hand off an account that's sales ready, right? So with the information from Demandbase and HubSpot in tandem, we can show an account with contact level data that's met our engagement threshold in Demandbase. So here is a quick screen grab. I know you can't see a lot of it because we blurred some of it out, but this is sort of like the package that our marketing team sends and routes to the sales team once an account has hit that hot or engaged stage. And we give them a mix of data from the account level, which includes their intent keywords and landing pages visited, which includes anonymous page visits, by the way, but then also specific names of contacts, what they did, what they downloaded, and then suggested next steps. So marketing is able to put all of that in a pretty package, and then we route that to the sales team when we bubble up those engaged and hot accounts. Cool. So we've set everything up. We originally started with alignment. How do we keep alignment? First, we specifically set up SLAs for how sales follows up on hot and engaged accounts. So I just took you guys through so many different slides on how marketing and marketing ops set up HubSpot and Demandbase, and we got buy-in, and we got everybody on the right mindset, right? I need sales to commit to an SLA and say that they are going to follow up on the engaged and hot accounts a specific amount of touches and on a specific time frame. I don't care what the touches are, right? They could call, they could LinkedIn, email message, whatever they want to do, but I need them to commit to an SLA to follow up on those engaged and hot accounts. In turn, I will also commit to sales on communicating with them on what marketing's doing. Marketing does event surges all the time, or different tactics where you may see a spike in marketing engagement, and we want the sales team to know what that's about and specifically what marketing did, right? Maybe we launched a Sendoso campaign for some type of high-value offer for our tier 1. First off, that's great. Hopefully we get a lot of conversions for it, but that may be why we're seeing a huge spike in our engaged and hot accounts. So it's important that marketing is also communicating two ways with the sales team. And then we also want to identify power users within the sales team specific to Demandbase. So it's one thing if someone's boss or manager says, hey, we're going to do this and here's why we're going to do it, but the best advocates are our colleagues, right? So I am going to take a look at all of my sales users that use Demandbase. I'm going to find 1 or 2 that have seen true success in what we're doing from an ABM standpoint, and then I'm going to talk to them about how they're a Demandbase champion. Then they are actually going to go out and do the hard work and tell their colleagues about how great ABM is and how they can use HubSpot and Demandbase. So we have an internal advocacy program for some of the MarTech that we're rolling out. And then also, don't be afraid to iterate and gather feedback from sales. If I route a hot account to sales and sales says that sucks, I'm like, great. I honestly would love to know why it sucks, right? Tell me why, but give me examples. Okay, why is it not hot enough? What did you do? When you got them on the phone these days, or you got an email response back, what was their response back? So I do need that tangible, constructive feedback, right? And so would you guys, in order to iterate and figure out how to tweak the system. So we actually got feedback from our sales team at the beginning of this that our accounts weren't warm enough. Okay, that's cool. I love to hear that, right? So we analyzed the sources of the engagement in Demandbase, and we actually found out that from a criteria standpoint, we were attributing too much engagement to our email opens. That was great feedback from sales, right? I was able to ratchet down how much I was scoring for email opens and make those adjustments accordingly. We also at Broadcom have these seasonal virtual summits that we spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources into, and in order to get people to go to these summits, we are going gangbusters on emails, and we are sending all kind of invitations, et cetera, because we want people to register for those emails, which is great. That's what a marketing team should do, but obviously that's going to have an effect on the system that we've built here, right? So number 1, making sure that sales is aware of those, and number 2, maybe we actually want to score those, we call them summits, those summit engagements lower than we traditionally would, right? So that way we don't upset the apple cart of the system that we've built. Okay, results and lessons learned. Okay, so we've been at it about a year or so. We've been able to bubble up 113 accounts that we have defined as engaged and hot across our 3 product lines. And then if we take a look at those 113 accounts that we've bubbled up, we're seeing 24% of them have open opportunities. Now, I just talked to you about how sales feedback was important, and we just iterated on some of those things like email opens. I think if we would have even gotten that feedback sooner, right, we probably would have decreased the amount of accounts that we were flagging, but increased our yield ratio from 24%. We've also got about 3.8 in open pipe, but if your sales team is anything like my sales team, they also have some open deals where they don't have value associated to those deals, right? They have them at 0 because they want them to grow some legs first. So we also have a wealth of open deals that are in the early stages. We talked about an SLA for sales. Marketing also has an SLA for them. So at the bottom of this slide is an excerpt of what marketing presents to sales in a monthly cadence on a couple select accounts from Tier 1. So we actually look on a per account basis. We say, here's how many engagement minutes they have in Demandbase. Here's what they're interested in from an intent spike standpoint. Here's specifically what they are engaging with. And then also here's what the personas that are engaging in this account are. We don't do this on a per account basis. It takes us a while to put together this data, but we probably take 4 or 5 per month, and we showcase those to sales, just so that way they've got some tangible examples of how some of our ABM accounts are working, okay? And then last but not least, we've got that feedback loop on disqualified accounts. As mentioned previously, I wanna know if sales has some constructive criticisms on what we're routing to them, so that way we can iterate on that and change some of the criteria if we need to. Okay, so I don't have a slide for this, but I would say, probably 3 key takeaways if you are in your ABM journey. Number 1 would be give yourself some grace, right? We just talked about so many to-dos and considerations up here, and it takes a little while to start with this progress. Number 2 is get alignment between marketing and sales. It may take you a couple weeks or frankly a couple months to bring sales along to the ABM and buying group mentality, but you are helping your future self, right? And as long as you've got their feedback and their partnership from the onset, that will make it less friction-filled for you when you actually start to map out your plan. And then number 3, figure out what is working for you with your MarTech stack. We're obviously all a part of HubSpot Grow right now because we're HubSpot enthusiasts. HubSpot can do a heck of a lot of this for you, right? But don't be afraid to think outside the box and onboard another technology like Demandbase that is specific to ABM, right? And they can help you with your ABM journey. Okay, that's what I had. I think we're going to have Leanne come up and see if we've got any questions from the audience. Yeah? Thank you.
This is pretty hard.
Hi.
Hey.
Željko here. So my question is, you showed the results that you have from the ABM, but how does it compare to the previous period when you didn't do the ABM in that capacity?
Oh my gosh, you know, it doesn't compare because we had no way to measure what we were doing, right? So if you remember the slide that I had up that said the different journey stages, and then I was layering on the results from tier 1 versus tier 2, we weren't really measuring it because we weren't holding marketing or sales accountable to any type of ABM results. All we could tell was that it wasn't working. We were not penetrating white space as much as we wanted to. But when you have that insight without a way of marketing's ABM wasn't working, or our tiering list was wrong, or sales wasn't prospecting enough, there was really no way to figure out what part of the pipe was leaking. So I realize I'm giving you a little bit of a non-answer, but the bottom line is we were not measuring it as best we could in order to compare.
Hi. You mentioned about the relationship between marketing and sales. And, the hot leads, I think, was your example. But what I see is I get sales pushing back on us reaching out to accounts that they're working with because they're quite defensive about the communications that they're having. I was just wondering if that's something that you'd experienced and any advice you had about overcoming that.
Yeah, good question. I mean, some salespeople are always going to be prickly about, you know, how you reach out to an account. What we do is, from a journey stage standpoint, marketing focuses on bringing accounts from unaware, literally they don't know that we exist, right, all the way through researching and aware of Broadcom's product. So we almost have a line of delineation there where marketing is warming up the accounts. We're prioritizing the list for sales, and then we say, sales, have at it once they're engaged and hot. Right? Now, they can definitely prospect into a company that maybe is not in that specific stages that I was referring to, but if marketing is doing our job correctly and we're warming those accounts, sales should want to prioritize their time for what's going to yield the most results, which are those engaged and hot accounts. The bottom line is, I think what you'll find is if marketing communicates well with sales on what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the content looks like, I think sales would significantly, would not push back as much as they probably do now. Great question.
Hi, really good session, thank you.
Thanks.
In terms of marketing, you were saying there that marketing needs to reach out to sales more. Is that in the field marketing teams that you're running the ABM? Or is it centrally? And did you have to change the skills in the field team to enable this?
Good question. So Broadcom does a ton of field marketing events. We still get our badge scans. We still import those into HubSpot. But then we only let the sales team know about those if they are bottom of funnel, meaning they came to our booth and they attended a 5 or 10 minute demo of whatever we were doing. Otherwise, it becomes a part of the holistic account picture, and we still use Demandbase to help us paint that picture, right? So it's not really a difference in skills. We would just need to let the booth folks and the field marketers know what type of, delineating between someone who joins you and just wants to grab a pen, right, versus someone who's stopping by your booth and having a substantive conversation from a demo standpoint, and then layering on, okay, do I want to tell sales about this because they're part of our target account list, or are they tier 1, I need to let them know right away.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I work for a small business, and we are working really hard to communicate to people who are engaged on all our accounts. But that my worry is sometimes that we are over-bombing, we are love-bombing the people who are engaged, and obviously that would kind of erase our effort of keeping them sweet and just giving them the information that they need to know. And I'm also worried about the non-engaged ones who then would probably not have that many triggers and they would get less communication. So how would you keep the two sides in balance?
Are you talking about love bombing the engaged contacts within your engaged accounts?
Yes. So we have quite a lot of triggers. So people are getting communication based on their behavior, their engagement, what they need, what they did on our website.
Yeah, you bet. I think, HubSpot out of the box has some good functionality to help prevent that. We use an email send frequency cap where we're saying, they cannot get more than 3 emails from us on a rolling week. Your send frequency cap may be more or less depending on what you're doing. There's also automating email nurtures is a double-edged sword. It's great because it's less hands-on time from the marketing team, but also there's danger in automating too much. So if you've got a ton of different email nurture triggers that are firing simultaneously, there's also some workflow settings that we deploy that says, hey, Sally can't be in this one and this one, or we're going to love bomb her too much, right? Other than that, it's finding the balance and taking a look at, are your contacts actually engaging in that? Maybe you are sending things and they're not opening them, and you can take a look at those metrics as well to help you tailor the cadence of your communication.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thanks, folks.